on the situation in Katsina State. In the meantime, stay safe.
All right, thank you very much. I'll gladly do that.
All right, we'll go straight to our conversation now. And I told you earlier that we already have in the studio a retired Commissioner of Police, Emmanuel Ojukwu. Emmanuel Ojukwu is presently the Executive Director of Society for Health, Youth and Social Development International. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning again.
All right, I will first of all start by asking you your evaluation of the response of the government so far as regards combating the COVID-19 pandemic.
Well, first, my assessment is that the government didn't do as much as Nigerians expected. The scourge didn't start today, it started in 2019, and they must have seen the spread. Being a viral disease, it could get to any part of the world. Nigeria didn't prepare well. Even now, we've not really prepared. Because we just had a report from Katsina, they've just activating 3 isolation centers. Elsewhere in this country, we've had cases where there was nothing to treat them, no test facilities. People don't know their status. Only a few high-profile individuals have been tested, and we are spreading in the news, this man is positive, this man is positive, even trying to stigmatize them. But the person talking about somebody being positive, have you been tested? Where are the test facilities? They're not available. And the numbers given, I have seen a number of people who have written that they've tried to contact the NCDC over issues. A lot of stories about that. Government response, this last one, is like a knee-jerk approach. You just came one day, addressed the nation by 7 o'clock. The next day, you shut down some states. I'm not sure due process was actually taken, but that's for lawyers to debate and for the states involved. But Nigerians became panicky. There has been fear in the air. Nobody wants to die.
But as regards the shutting down of some states, that is 2 states and the FCT, of course, Ogun State is expected to begin its own lockdown by April 3rd. Yesterday, President Muhammadu Buhari signed the COVID-19 Regulation Act into law, which of course gives him the rights to lock down states, as it were, in a bid to quarantine and, of course, control the spread of COVID-19. But to other issues, prior to this time, some state governments, went ahead to shut borders, leaving a lot of Nigerians stranded. How would you describe the actions of some state governments?
Well, I'm sure the governors themselves or the governments involved are very much aware of the right under the Constitution to move around freely within the Nigerian borders. And if you take a state like Kogi that has borders with 9 states, if the governor of Kogi, I don't know what I did that, shuts down Kogi state, that means that Nigerians from 9 states of this federation cannot move to Abuja or cannot pass through that state. I'm not sure a governor has a right to stop citizens from moving about within their own country. It's a democracy we are running. Those are issues I think that our lawyers and our courts should deliberate upon and put them in proper perspective.
All right, talking about putting them in proper perspective, 2 states and the Federal Capital Territory are being talked about right now. Lagos State, for instance, has a huge population, including the Federal Capital Territory, not also excluding Ogun State. And the policemen are those who will be used to enforce the implementation of this restriction and lockdown order. And there's been a lot of questions, as regards the danger these essential workers, like the policemen, the journalists, health workers, and some others would face during this period. What are your concerns?
My concern first is that the police always does the dirty job, and nobody commends them for that. All they get are condemnation. Now policemen now have to be on the streets to enforce that order, asking Nigerians to stay indoors. Now, who are these Nigerians? These are people who are afraid of their death, afraid of the disease. They are Nigerians who are afraid of hunger because there's poverty in the land. These are Nigerians that are agitated and Nigerians that are not in their best of moods. So they're already provoked. And once they see a policeman, that is the agent of government that is dealing with them. They look at the police as the one. That perception may make somebody to begin to even attack the police, haul insults at them, raise curses on police and other. And the police themselves, being Nigerian human beings, who also feel the heat, who also have families, who also are poor, who also are not properly remunerated, who also are not properly catered for, who also have their feelings, but they cannot express them because of the regimentation of the job. They are crossroads. They just approach avoidance, conflict. But it is their duty. That's what they've signed, to make sure that government orders are respected by Nigerians who are aggressive. I will expect of them to apply a lot of emotional intelligence, anger management, and comport themselves and get the job done for the safety of all.
Now, when you say that you expect the policemen to, deploy a lot of emotional intelligence, a lot of people would ask whether the policemen will not also be exposed to, getting infected, but perhaps maybe through their contacts, possible contact with infected persons. What kind of measures should be put in place? We know in other climes you see some special forces for the implementation of COVID-19 with silicone-like face masks.
That's right.
And full kitted, the normal kits for protective guards.
Yes.
But in this regard, are we going to be seeing that?
I'm not sure we see that because there's no provision for that. The police has been crying about being underfunded, not being properly equipped. Now, this is an emergency situation that you'll expect some intervention or emergency measures to be made to equip the police so to protect them, because they also are Nigerian human beings. They also are vulnerable. It's a viral disease. Anybody could be a victim. But the police are not being protected. That's why I say I believe they will manage it. They will just see how to protect themselves, because any policeman that goes down is a minus. He will be in the statistic and he will be unsung. I believe they will be able to cope with the situation, because they've always coped with the bad situation Nigeria placed them in. I believe this time around they'll come out still smoking fine, and God will help them.
When we talk about God helping and the fact that the policemen are essential workers, and at moments like this, when it has to do with internal security, the policemen are the ones at the forefront.
Right.
What exactly? Yesterday we had a brief of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. We had them brief yesterday on the situation so far in the country as regards COVID-19. Did it actually come to you that in spite of that brief, in the midst of the brief, there was no mention of of protective guards for policemen?
Yeah, that is symptomatic of the neglect that sector of the economy has suffered over the years. Police, actually, I've been there for 32 years. Nobody reckons with them, but they do the job, and they've kept the nation safe for a number of years. But nobody mentions that. Recently I watched in the news a number of medical healthcare providers, I think in Italy or whatever. About 51 of them, they contracted this disease and are now deceased. The same may apply to the police if they themselves are not careful. What I'm saying is that the matter you mentioned about the committee, they didn't mention the police. They didn't mention providing them with protective gears, masks, sanitizers, and all that. These officers have to sort these things themselves. Otherwise, they become statistics. And nobody wants to die.
But when you say the officers need to sort these things themselves, that means individually they would have to use their personal money to buy the stuff. But there is a provision, a police equipment fund. Where does that come in?
I just laugh because the law became effective, in quotes, 24 June 2019. We're getting to 24 June 2020, 1 year after. The trust fund has not been activated. No board has been activated. No secretary appointed. It's just there in the books. It may gather dust. Maybe soon we may forget it. The bottom line, that fund was meant, or is meant, to train the police, retrain the police, equip the police, to serve Nigerians. Equipment is a whole gamut of things. Could be these gears we're talking about, motorized vehicles, communication equipment, because policemen communicate with their own personal phones. That's why a policeman can refuse to answer your call. Because the line, he bought it, the phone is his own, not provided by government or by Nigerians, so to speak. That phone was supposed to warehouse government allocations, a percentage, in fact, 0.5%, I think 5% of a federation account, levies from companies of their net profit, then grants and what have you. They enable us make our police mobile, make our police effective, so that we can sleep with 2 eyes closed. Nigerians are always sleeping with their eyes open. That means no sleep. Insomnia will soon become a Nigerian. The point is that having been signed into law, nothing has been done. And so the police remains under-equipped. The police still remains untrained, ill-trained. The deficit in training is gargantuan. And so it cannot be effective. It cannot be efficient. And who are the end losers? Every Nigerian, every consumer of police services is in trouble in this country because that fund has not been activated. And we are looking for a way. It's an intervention fund for 6 years. 1 year is gone now. Before you know it, the next 5 years will come and nothing has been done. And we remain where we are, and somebody will tag Nigeria police as the worst in the world, and somebody will be smiling when he should be crying.
But you know, in the midst of this, there should be some ray of hope. As regards the police trust fund, what should be done to ensure the speedy implementation of that fund?
I think there's need for more sensitization. Nigerians, like you mentioned, that committee fund, they didn't mention about police as if it's not important. But these are people who know that without security, you can't do anything. Our constitution said that the security and welfare of the people is the primary purpose, number one purpose of government. So where government cannot provide security for us, it cannot give us welfare. Because without security, you can't build roads. And that aspect of security, of which the police is a key, in fact, the major player, number one player in internal security, is being downplayed. Nigerians need to realize that without the police doing their job properly, Americans will say, you ain't going nowhere yet. So the public should be the ones to cry out. Make our police better so that life will be better for us, our security will be okay. So that awareness, that sensitivity has to be done. Number two, those who know the National Assembly that made that law and pay attention to it, they should be able to ask questions. Mr. President, what happened to this law? This bill, you signed into law. Why haven't you considered this or done this and done this? Nigeria police, they cannot say much. Because police could be seen but not heard.
All right, there's a question being asked you at the moment on how public and private-public partnership can be made effective to support the Nigerian police funding to enhance public safety and security in Nigeria.
The public have been partnering with the police, actually, in making the police effective. Many communities donated vehicles, buildings, and what have you, to make their police work, because the government whose duty it is has not been up and doing. So the public have been partnering with the police. That's why you had this group they call Police Community Relations Committee. They do quite a lot of work with the police, and they've been happy. Many communities, they do a lot of things with the police. But we need a group to warehouse all of this and make it national. So you can have a standard, you can have accountability, you can have transparency in the operations, because some of the money that may come to a police division, for instance, to do some work, may not be accounted for. Those who donated it are giving you a vehicle. The vehicle may be used to take your wife to market. They will not raise an eyebrow because they think it's police. It is your property. But this fund, because public funds are warehoused there, the public, the NGOs, CSOs, Accountant General, all their antenna will be up, and they'll look into it to be sure there's accountability. So partnership, not just giving and not asking questions. What most Nigerians do now, they give, they don't ask questions. But they should ask questions if they are good partners. That's why if you're a shareholder in a company, you ask questions in the AGM, how come you spend so much on overhead? They should ask questions.
Well, at the moment, we do know that the police are all over the place ensuring that there is total compliance with the government's directive on the lockdown in 2 states and the FCT. But from what you have enumerated, from your point of view, do you think there would be perhaps this states would see a low enforcement owing to perhaps some low morals from the policemen?
As I said earlier on, the police have always done their job to the best of their abilities. But then the policed, those who are being policed, also have a role to play. Number of Nigerians look down on the police. In fact, one man told me police are pure water, sachet water that dispensable. That's okay. That's a perception. But when the other policeman is first of all a man or a woman, full-fledged Nigerian citizen, who grew up in this country, an adult, also has views about this country. They also have feelings. Now this lockdown is coming, some anticipated it, some didn't. So to them it is sudden. And it's a change program and there must be resistance. I went to the city this morning to come to this place. A lot of movement. People were still at bus stops.
Really?
Looking for vehicles to go where? Vehicles are moving. Now, when somebody is going somewhere, maybe...
You mean this morning?
Of course, now I came from the streets. Somebody maybe you want, and the alarm banks are open.
Yeah, the government gave a waiver for
that is right.
Financial services.
Now, yesterday, I passed through some banks. If you saw the queue, because of social distancing, if to enter a bank yesterday was like passing through the eye of a needle. Some couldn't get money from ATM. So this morning, they want to get money. Have some money, have some cash at hand. Now somebody wants to have some cash at hand, little that you could just keep body and soul together. Maybe to buy a mood of Gary from his neighbor, whose shops are also locked. And then the policeman stops him. Don't go anywhere. He remembers his children back home, who probably are, we are crying for food. He would like to attack the police for stopping him from protecting his children. That's the natural thing. So it requires on the top.
So there are likelihoods of maybe some sort of arguments or possible fights between citizens and the police.
Right. It's to be expected. That's why I say police should apply emotional intelligence. Understand where this man is coming from. Understand his feelings, his emotions. Understand his fears. So the police should be able to marry the two. They should comport themselves, accommodate the situation, and use persuasion, and not brute force.
But when you consistently talk about the police applying emotional intelligence, some would like to also ask you what the police authority did. For those who are to be deployed to the streets, how much of health evaluation, mental evaluation was carried out on them?
You cannot give what you don't have. The police does not have psychologists or counselors to counsel officers. The training deficit is so glaring, it's alarming, it's even a scandal. If an officer is not properly trained on emotional intelligence, he can't apply that to his subordinates. And so that lacuna or that gap remains. But officers on their own, a good number of officers have learned over the years, some from scanty training here and there, have learned over the years that they are policing a hurting people. Nigerians are hurting, that's the truth. They are policing a hurting people. And you don't need to aggravate it by being aggressive, because you could be a victim. If a policeman is a victim, he's unsung. How much is insurance for police? These are the issues to be addressed by that form. How much insurance? So nobody wants to lose his job or lose his life on account of being excessively aggressive or overbearing on a situation where persuasion would have worked. They've learned that over the years by self-development, not by institutional training, because it doesn't exist, it's not there, the funds are not there. Our training institutions in the police.
All right, I understand I understand that while you were in office, you served in the capacity of the Force Public Relations Officer. Now, the question now is, at a moment like this, how should all top officials, media and health personnel handle information at their disposal?
Repeat that question. I didn't get it properly.
The question is, based on your experience as a former Force Public Relations Officer, at a critical time like this, how should top officials, the media, and of course health personnel handle information at their disposal, possibly to quell apprehension and further fears?
Okay, right. Thank you. It's not every information that you relay or you relate to members of the public. One has to gauge the level, the information, its likely effect, ripple effect on people, and then that's about managing an information. There's what they call the need to know and need to share. Not everything you get, you just throw into the public. You could throw into the public, it will cause fear, panic. People may die. If your intention was to warn Nigerians not to do this and this, the reverse may be the case. So one should be able to gauge what kind of information should I pass. If you're a top media practitioner, a health practitioner, like in this, there was the case of the Italian that was mentioned, the first index case. Yeah. Nigeria will ask him, what's his identity? We need to know him. No. So those who had the information about him managed it. They kept calling him the index case. That was a good one. They didn't mention his name. You don't need to stigmatize somebody. That somebody is sick, somebody is sick. Many of us are sick of so many things. Some are sick of ignorance. Some are sick of poverty. Sick in various degrees. Why do we have to stigmatize somebody? So how they manage information is key to what happens thereafter. They should be circumspect.
They should be very circumspect in their handling of information. Thank you very much. Retired Commissioner of Police, Emmanuel Ojukwu. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. And of course, Emmanuel Ojukwu is the Executive Director, Society for Health, Youth and Social Development International. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much.
But at this point, we'll call it a day on today's edition of Kayaki, the African Voice. We'll love to hear from you. Keep your views and comments coming via our Twitter handle at AIT Kayaki. In the meantime, stay safe. Happy isolation. Bye.